Pender FFA alumni and supporters, Sandy Creek, Newman Grove, and Heartland FFA chapters, and the Nebraska Livestock Market Association. And welcome back once again. It is time for FFA Market Goats. These are lightweight class 1, weighing from 51 to 66 pounds.
We're getting our day started over here on the goat side. Man, this is an awesome class. I'm really excited. I thought the Doe Show last night was exceptional and enjoyed working with all the kids and getting to work with some awesome stock. And give all these guys a round of applause. Heck of a way to start our goat show. The quality in this class from top to bottom was very, very good. I talked to these kids and just some parts and pieces to work through these things. And we've got one here that doesn't blend and balance quite as well. We've got a couple here that probably need some more product. Another one here that's got all the product we need, doesn't fit together. Have one here that's underlined, could be a little better. Set him in motion. He wants to come apart and have a really big backed carcass-oriented one here that's just not quite as stout featured, a little more fragile where he hits the surface. I thought the top 5 that balance the best come out here, and that's the ones that we'll talk about here. And, we're going to show some grace as far as parts and pieces, and we're going to try to use the ones that, to me, balance the best, offer the most quality. We're going to try to find the pair of them that I think are the hardest to make and the funnest to look at to start each class. I was talking with our young man over here in 5th, and that one is really, really good put together. Hey, that's high-quality livestock, maybe not quite as far advanced maybe in terms of just maturity and muscularity, and that's what ends him in the 5th hole today. He's a little peaky there in his rack shape. He's not quite as open there in his upper rib cavity, and he's not quite as expressive there about his pin set. But that is a high-quality animal, young man. I don't know where your end point is, but more days on feed, I think, are going to be in your favor because that one's very well put together. You do an awesome job of showing him. Young lady, we're going to start here in 4 is one that is extremely heavy structured, lots of feature, lots of body, has some jump muscle showing there, and I don't mind that. It's just kind of a muscle indicator for me. I guess when I get on the 3/4 view of this one, he has the least curvature to an outer body wall. He's probably the plainest in the base of his chest. He's probably the plainest there about his head and ear set. He's just not quite as appealing, has a lot of shape. Again, young lady, you do an awesome job getting that one shown. Man, the heat turns up here in the top 3, and I thought this was probably where the decision laid because I had each one of these weathers in my mind as a possibility of winning the class, and I think they probably set themselves apart in terms of quality in this particular class. A young man that's going to be 3rd with the black-headed weather. Hey, I'll be honest with you, I remember that one from showmanship yesterday, and I thought that was real high-quality weather, and I'm proud to see you hit the ring and get him out here and get him showed again. Here's what I see with him. He's the wastiest in the base of his chest. He's the dirtiest in the back of his neck carriage. He's the plainest across his back and into his hip. He has the least amount of expression of the top 3. He probably has a slight advantage in terms of forearm size and front foot size where he hits the surface. I like to crisp that one up, lean him up, and shape him up just a little bit, particularly there in his 1/3, to be able to rival a couple of sports cars. They're going to start this class. Young man here in 2nd has one that when he hit the ring, I said, hey, we got one to start with. This thing is jet level. He's crispy. He's shapely. He's lean, and he's athletic. He's not quite as good in the angle to his shoulder, young man, and that's the deal. The longer we're out here, the more he moves across the ring. He doesn't want to giddy up and go quite as well out of his front end. Wants to be a little more rigid there in his shoulder. Study him on the 3/4. He's a little flatter in his body wall. He's a little plainer there across the plane of his stifle. I think the biggest hipped one, the one that gets out and go out of his hind leg the best, the one that handles the most expressively from front to rear, and I think the one that probably balances the most with the least amount of problems and the most amount of package, which is what we're going to do, is the one we start with. Very, very good weather to start this class. Give all these kids a round of applause and thank them for their effort.
Here's your results of your Market Goat Class number 1. Blue ribbon winners will include Aiden Hayden from the Hartington Newcastle FFA, Natalie Peppernick from the Ord FFA. Purple ribbon winners, Drew Saney from the Norfolk FFA, Cash Parrish from the Sutton FFA, Colby Hartman from the Adams Central FFA, Carter Wander from the Syracuse Dunbar Avoca FFA. Carter will also be coming back for the Division Championship. Justine Pope from the Shelton FFA. Aiden Hayden from the Hartington Newcastle FFA. And Addie Crockett from the Bruning Davenport FFA. Also coming back will be your 2nd purple, which is Cash Parrish from the Sutton FFA. And coming back as well, your 1st purple of class number 1, exhibited by Sarah Mitchell of the O'Neill FFA. Entering now will be your lightweight class number 2. These goats will weigh from 67 to 73.5 pounds.
Well, I didn't have to judge 71 classes yesterday like Kendall, and I did get coffee this morning. But with that, Class 2 here, particularly this top three, will get you fired up still because I think we have one that when he hits the ring, he's got a commanding presence. He's got commanding feature. He is awesome from the muzzle of his nose, where his eye and skull sets in him, where his ear sets, back into a monster cage, huge hip, big-footed. He's a little bit of a knucklehead and, doesn't just want to say, hey, I'm the one out here from time to time, but that thing is really, really good. He wedges right. His joints are bendy. That's a high-quality animal. Hey, I think the one that probably fits or paints the prettiest picture consistently from the side profile comes in two. Man, this thing runs uphill. His underlying balance is right. He's fit awesome. He's got big legs. Young man, you do an exceptional job of getting that thing stuck. Good job. Hey, here's my deal. When we study this one from the three-quarter view, when we get right on top of him, he's not quite as genuinely wide at the base of his chest. He doesn't have quite as much shape coming out of the back of his shoulder. He's a little plainer there across the plane of his stifle and into his pin set. Just runs out of horsepower to one that I think is just elite there in our first hole. Man, good job with a really, really nice goat. I like muscle. I like him to look expensive, and I do like this third-place red goat. Hey, that thing is round-bodied, and you can't put a bigger hip and hiney in one. He handles like none other. When we set that thing in motion, he's a little more fragile at the surface. He doesn't get up and go quite as well out of his hock or his shoulder, but I think a carcass-oriented, awesome caged, really, really fresh one. Again, my compliments to you from a showmanship standpoint. Very tough class. Awesome goat to be third. Hey, we got lots of big pieces in this one. It comes in four. Big legged, lots of feature, stout skulled, huge bodied. He's a little rougher there in his chest plate. He's a little dirtier there at the base of his chest. He's a little crestier there at the back of his neck. My biggest pet peeve on him, though, okay? Pet's awesome, maybe the biggest one in his center loin. He pets awesome. We get right in behind him. He wedges too much. We set him in motion. He's the most restricted out of his hock and hind leg. And then here we've got one that comes forward. Kind of like our second place goat. Man, he's really balanced and uniform and organized from the side profile view. We set those things in motion. He becomes the least organized there. He's the flattest in his outer body wall. He's the narrowest in his chest. He's monster backed. We get right in behind him. He's a little flatter and plainer there in the center part of his leg. Nice class. We talked to some of these kids here. Got a couple of them here that need more product. A couple of them here in the middle of this lineup just need to be stouter featured, bigger at their foundation. Really a big, stout, athletic, carcass-oriented one here. Just need more flesh. Young man has a doe kid that's really stout, dimensional, moderate frame, just not quite as fresh or presented as some of these other ones. Give all these kids a round of applause. Thank them for their efforts. Awesome first two classes.
Congratulations to your lightweight class number 2 exhibitors. Your blue ribbon winners include Isaiah Ekstrom from the Central FFA, Keisha Elber from the Blue Hill FFA, Nolan Hessenkamp from the West Point FFA, Ada Crockett from the Brooding Davenport FFA, Cale Schmidt from the Fairbury FFA, and London Costanza from the Cozad FFA. Your purple ribbon winners, including Sarah Mitchell from the O'Neill FFA. Sarah will be coming back for the final. Baylor Barons from the McCool Junction FFA, Allison Kemp from the Wallace FFA. Second purple and coming back as well for the lightweight division will be Corbin Seabrand from the Pierce FFA, and your first purple. And coming back, congratulations to Addison Vavracek of the Schuyler Central FFA. In the ring now is your entering the ring now will be your lightweight division.
Well, let's try this. I don't know if Glenn and I can talk on the same side of the barn or not, but we'll see what happens here. Hey, this first division, guys, has been awesome. Give all these kids a round of applause. The ones that went out the gate, man, it's been extremely deep. Just to be completely honest with you, it's exceeded my expectations. I got up this morning a little better attitude and fired up and ready to rock and roll and work through these things. I think we've got a pair of class winners to talk about here that are very, very good. They've got some differences and contrasts, and we'll talk all four of them here briefly. I'll tell you exactly what I see. Young lady that starts Class 1 did so from the one that we thought was the most organized, the heaviest muscled, and particularly the biggest hipped one in that class. I thought he was the most appropriate there in the turn to his outer body cavity. He was the biggest pinned, the most expressive across his stifle, and he was also the deepest in his twist. Man, that's distracting. The one there in second in this class was super level, awesome looking from this side, and probably fits our class winner or our second place one out of our second class. Both of those things are awesome looking. We talked about this guy being crispy backed. Young man does an exceptional job getting him shown. He's lean, he's trim, he's firm. He's not quite as three-dimensional in his build. He's a little more upright in his skeleton slightly, but I mean, that's a really nice one. We talked about this class winner in Class 2 here being just dense, bulky, athletic, has a big chunky back leg, monster hipped, awesome skulled, great neck shape. That is 110% my kind of livestock. He's just a little bit longer bladed if you want to be hypercritical. And I think at this level of competition, we can probably talk about those things. But that is a very, very good animal that suits me about to a T. And the second place one here in Class 2 is one that just, he is balanced. He is Cadillac sound. He's smooth. He has an awesome body shape. You get on the three-quarter view, he couldn't quite rival that class winner just in terms of dimension and shape. He's just a little plainer out of his hip and pin set. I think there's one for me that suits me pretty good. We'll go select that exhibitor's hand, and then we'll talk about our seconds.
Congratulations to Addison Vavracek of the Schuyler Central FFA will be your division grant.
Bring that second place goat out of Class 2 up here, and we talked about that one twice now, just in terms of build and shape and comfort. He is so flexible and so comfortable where his foot hits the surface. He balances up well. When we set those things in motion, I think he holds himself together a little better than our Class 1 winner. I think he's definitely more comfortable. He has enough muscle. Hey, I like muscle, and I like big parts and pieces. It all has to blend right. I'm going to tell you, on this one as Class 1 winner, I think he's a little more vertical and rigid in his rear pastern. We set those things in motion. His shoulder and knee doesn't want to operate quite like it needs to. I think this is a real close call. I like that second place out of Class 2 to be reserved.
Congratulations to Corbin Seabrand to the Pierce FFA, your division reserve. For now on the goat side, we are moving into our middleweight class. This middleweight first class weighs from 74 to 82 pounds.
We're getting fired up back over here on the goat side of things. And to mimic what the other two said, make sure you keep that family and that young lady in your prayers. Hey, this is no doubt the deepest, highest quality set of livestock we've got to evaluate in the goat ring so far. There's 3 of these things that could be class winners, and unfortunately, we just get to pick one, make a few comments about the few on the rail that are going to be released. Need a little more product probably in these bottom 3. Big stout featured lean one here, needs more body condition. Got to fancy this one up just a little bit. Black-headed goats, huge loined, ducks his pins a little bit. Have one right here that's exceptionally stout, rivals any of them from the 3/4 view. Little plain in his head and neck attachment compared to 5 really good-looking show goats. Skin's not as fresh, not as deep in his lower leg. Good job to you young ladies for that. Hey, we got an awesome top 5 right here, and I think the one that is the hardest to build, that is no doubt the most comfortable where he plants at the surface, that is the heaviest boned, that is the leanest and shapeliest to his touch, and I think is the most dimensional and stout, comes in our class winner. I think he excels in all of those places. He's maybe not quite visually just as draw in his shape from a visual standpoint, but I promise you, when you put your hands on that thing, he opens up better than the rest of them. He's bigger, he's bolder. You set that thing in motion, and he is the most comfortable animal we've seen hit the ring. My critique on him, just cosmetic. He's a little too full, particularly in the left part of his upper flank. He's just a little full there. It's a little distracting. That's about the only thing we're going to say about that one. Hey, we've got one that is sporty looking here in second. That thing is level. He's crispy. He's got a groove down his rack. He's level hipped. We set those things in motion, stud him in natural state. He's probably the least stout in his bone work of our top 3. He's probably the smallest in his forearm. No doubt you get behind him, he's probably the flattest there in his stifle. But that thing is probably unrivaled, though, of our top 3 when you handle him from the backside of his shoulder through the center part of his back. Exceptional show goat there. Young lady does an awesome job. Taking nothing away from our 3rd place one here, because maybe skeletal build and balance with a little more flesh, this one might be our class winner, because I do like the way this one plants and goes. I like his comfort level. I like his forearm and his front foot size. He's not near as cracked open right here out the backside of his shoulder. He's definitely the most bland there. He's the lowest and the plainest in the heel of his loin. We study those things in motion. He wants to be the least descript in his muscle. He sets down just a little bit lower in his head and neck attachment. He's a little wrinkly there in his pole. I think we have one here in 4 that's really, really good from the side. Big cage, awesome underline, big crispy back. Young lady does an awesome job of getting everything out of this one. I love a skinny neck and an awesome head on a big body cavity. Man, you get running behind that one. He's the smallest in his hip. He's the narrowest across the plane of his stifle. He's the lowest in his pin set. That's where I pick on him. You put a big monster hip on that thing, we probably got a class winner, because that's a very good goat. Commend you for your showmanship. And this red one, I remember him from yesterday in showmanship. Big featured, big legs, awesome from the side. He's deceiving when you look at him, because you don't know how much muscle that thing has. I promise you, he's got a big stand-up rack in him. He's wide loin. I'd like to freshen him just a little bit. I'd like to give him just a little more mass to compete with 4 of them ahead of him that are really, really good. Hey, this is an awesome class. Give all those kids a round of applause.
Entering the ring now will be your middleweight class 2 for our goats. They weigh from 84 up to 87 pounds. Your results out of middleweight class number 1. Blue ribbon winners include Aiden Hayden from the Hardington Newcastle FFA, Helena Pepperneck from the Ord FFA. Purple ribbon winners will be Brooklyn Dennis from the Syracuse Dunbar Avoca FFA, Samantha Schmidt from the Fairbury FFA, Mia Carey from the Westholt FFA, Cammie Held from the Lee FFA. Cammie will be coming back for the division. Carrie Saney from the Norfolk FFA, Mackenzie Pitzmeyer from the Diller Odell FFA, Baylor Barons from the McCool Junction FFA, Michelle Biscay from the Emerson Hubbard FFA. Second purple and coming back for the division drive will be Lauren Johnson from the Palmyra FFA. And first, congratulations to Ashley Robinson from the Wallace FFA.
Man, they keep coming, and I think the last class we had the best 5. In this class, we've got the best 7 that we've had so far in the show. And I can remember not too long ago, goats age like milk, and they're starting to age them a little more like wine and get a little better as we get bigger. And I think that's to be commended for all the breeders and crews around ringside. We've got a few of these here. These 3 here, we just got to have more product. We talk to these kids, bone, shape, body condition. Have one right here that's not lacking bone and all. Hey, that one is big and powered up. He's not quite as fresh over his loin. Wants to go to the waist here there in his chest floor. Big muscle one here that just kind of lacks pizzazz and show ring appeal. Has a big hip and a big loin. Got one full of pizzazz and show ring appeal. I told this young man, I said, hey, fella, I'm sorry you drew the wrong class because this thing is awesome looking from the side. Cadillac sound, just straight up runs out of horsepower in this class. Hey, these top 5, they're elite. I think we start with one that's extra elite. Start with the base of that one's skull, where he's at, and the shape of his muzzle, his head and ear set, his cleanliness to his throat. He's awesome in his shoulder and neck attachment. Body condition spot on. He's super sound. He's super smooth. He's got a big back. Everything works like it's supposed to. Everything fits together like it's supposed to, most importantly, in an awesome-looking athletic package. I do like that one a bunch. Hey, the heaviest muscled one, no doubt has the biggest parts and pieces, comes here in second. He's unrivaled in back shape. Unfortunately for me, it doesn't all blend and fit quite as well. He's the coarsest there about the base of his shoulder. He's the steepest in his hip. He's the most elevated and pronounced in his jump muscle when you get right in behind him, when he tracks, and when you study from the 3/4 view of our top 3. He's the most base narrow. You set him in motion. His hocks come together too much for me. Young lady, you do an awesome job presenting. That thing is fresh. He handles like none other. Very nice goat to be second. The heaviest muscle one, probably for sure with the biggest pooper, comes here in third. Man, that thing has got some stuff hanging down in his trunk. He's huge in his cage. He's a little higher in his spine. He's a little longer in his blade. He's a little coarser at the base of his neck. Wants to go a little rounder and more sickled in his hock shape. Lots of product, lots of power. I like that goat. If you would have told me, hey, this is a 3rd place goat at the Nebraska State Fair, I'd say you're crazy. This is a really deep class. Hey, we got 1 and 4 right here that's got the big legs. Young lady, do an awesome job presenting that thing. I love the way his spine works. I love the way his shoulder and knee works. He's probably the plainest of our top 4 across his loin. He's the flattest and narrowest across the plane of his stifle. Just runs out of horsepower. Young lady has a really, really nice doe here. Hey, this thing is level. She's attractive, probably silhouettes the most like our class winner of everything in the top 5. Comparatively, she's a little flatter. She's a little more refined in her feature and bone work. She goes right away from me. She's probably the plainest. If I'm going to take that athleticism and look and build, got to have a little more trade-off on muscle to move up in the class. Nice doe right there. She's also for you. Hey, this class was great. Give all these kids a round of applause.
Now time to bring them back in for your selection of your division middleweight. Again, they will make that selection at 3:30 this afternoon for the overall market goats here at the Nebraska State Fair. Your results out of middleweight class number 2. Blue ribbon winners include Natalie Pepperdick from the Ord FFA, Jacob Chisbera from the Wilcox Hildreth FFA. Other blue ribbon winner includes Tavera Viras from the Thayer Central FFA. Purple ribbon winners are Preston Baumenmeyer from the McCook FFA, Hallie Picorni from the Wheeler Central FFA, Wyatt Evanson from the Beatrice FFA. Wyatt, by the way, will be coming back for this final drive for the middleweights. Shelby Carr from the Alliance FFA, Caitlin Rizak from the Central FFA, Aiden Boniface from the Blue Hill FFA. Second purple and also coming back in the ring is Paisley White from the Nebraska Ag Academy. And first purple out of the middleweight class 2, congratulations to Clara Johnson from the Palmyra FFA.
Well, I'd encourage you to pump it up for these middleweights because these things are absolutely elite. Kids did an awesome job. Thank them for what they did. Give them a big round of applause. It doesn't get any tougher than this, in my opinion, regardless of where you want to go. We've got four really, really good ones out here. Let's talk about them. We'll go get you a champion in reserve middle. Young lady comes out of our first class with one that is, man, he's crazy in bone and feature. This thing has got a great big paws. It hit the ground really, really soft and comfortable. He's unrivaled probably just in terms of softness and comfort where he plants and hits the surface and floats around the ring. He's really, really stout in his bone work. You know, is he the heaviest muscle one out here? Absolutely not. Does he have enough muscle in the grand scheme of things for me? Absolutely so. Probably my biggest hypercritical critique on him is he's probably of our four, he's probably the most generic there in his forerib shape and elevation of his chest floor. He's just a little plainer there in the outward curvature to his body wall there. He's not quite as expressive there across the plane of his stifle, but he has plenty of muscle. That is a high quality looking one. I'd love to stand behind that one in a backdrop picture because he's got big pieces, looks awesome moving around the ring. The second place one there in that class is one that is just jet level, tail sticks straight up in the air, unrivaled in terms of rack shape out here. Love the turn to his center body. He's shallow and tucked up in his chest. Of our four, comparatively, young lady, he's the smallest and most fragile there at the surface where he hits the ground. He's the smallest in his forearm. Get in front of him or behind him. He's the narrowest of the four we have out here. Love that thing from the side. Love him on the handle. You, again, do an awesome job getting that thing shown. Is there just enough power and feature there at the surface? That's the question. We run into this black-headed one here that wins our heavier class, and that thing is a true athlete. You know, to be able to make any species of livestock, particular goats, that have that much feature, that much eye appeal, and to balance that well, to be that athletic, I think is really unique regardless of species. That's a nice animal. Everything blends, everything fits. He's got a great big back in him. He's long and level hipped, has monster feet, awesome headed. We talked about the one that was second there in that class, and man, he's got a big cage. He's got a ripping ditch down his back. He is awesome in terms of handle. You get running behind, his upper hip is wide. He wanted to taper to the ground, particularly in his hock. Study him in his three-quarter view. He's a little narrower that at his knee. You set those things in motion. Compared to the class winner, he wanted to get the most base narrow of our top three in that class. What excelled you there is freshness and shape and handle. He's got a big forearm in here, and for one that's being that stout and moderate in his length of body, he's still clean at the base of his neck. Hey, these are really, really good. I think there's a pair of them that stick together in my mind. These two out of the heaviest class will be your champion reserve.
And congratulations to Clara Johnson. She is going to be your middleweight division grand champion. And your reserve congratulations will go to Paisley White from the Nebraska Ag Academy. Clara, of course, is from the Palmyra FFA. They will be competing in this afternoon's final drive, which will take place at 3:30 this afternoon in the beef ring. We're moving on now to our heavyweight class. Heavyweight class 1 weighs from 92 to 96 pounds.
probably the most challenging class to put together because when you get up here on the top end, I think mathematically you add up the positives, subtract the negatives, you come up with the same number. So we'll talk about those here in just a minute on personal preference, kind of show ring appeal, aesthetics that separated them. We have a few down here. We talk to these kids, need some more product, a little heavier condition, maybe out of balance in terms of just on the rail cutability in terms of muscle and condition. Have one here that's really good looking. Young lady does a nice job of getting that thing shown. Needs some more product. Have one here that has lots of product, runs out of aesthetics, a little plainer in his look, a little lower set to his tail head and chest floor. Talk these in reverse order here. Young lady here in 5 is going to have one that's probably the plainest from a look standpoint of our top 5. Aesthetically, again, use that term a lot in this class. He's a little plainer in his skin. He's a little plainer in the base of his head and neck. From a cutability standpoint, though, he has muscle. He's lean. He's not unsound. Gets him in our top 5. Hey, we've got a really nice looking one here in 4. That thing is smooth. He's attractive. He's good in his shoulder. I think he's appropriate in his finish. You handle him, he's big across his back, and he's fresh. Young lady does a good job of showing that thing. He's starting to be a knucklehead now. He runs out of bone, runs out of substance, runs out of feature. Just got to stout in the lower half of that thing's silhouette and body cavity to compete with what we have up here. Young man probably has the soundest, most athletic one here in 3rd. Runs out of muscle, particularly from his last rib where he ties into the heel of his loin. He's around us and plainest of our top 3. Gets just a little squishy-footed walking around here on his rear feet. That's not something that's a pet peeve of mine. He's a little forward in his knee, though. Gets a little plain on his upper shoulder. The heavy muscled goat that probably I wanted to use to win the class, when they first hit the ring and on the first close inspection comes here in 2. He's really good in the center part of his body. Outward curvature to his last rib is big. Handle is unmatched in this class. Just muscularity is unmatched. He doesn't blend and balance quite as well. We set him in motion. He's the straightest in his hock. Wants to come in when we get right in behind him. He's the shortest and roundest in his hip. Fights you just a little bit. Just can't ever get just the perfect look of that one on the move or on the brace. I think aesthetically, from a balance standpoint, from a soundness standpoint, just how everything fits together, you're 2 with the heaviest muscle one today. No doubt the squarest goat, the soundest goat, the one that's best in the base of his chest, the one that's the best in his forearm, and probably the balance is the best, leads our class. Young lady gets that thing stuck. He runs uphill. He's good shouldered. He's good headed. He has enough muscle. Set him in motion. He has the best hind leg. He's the squarest hip. Get right in behind him. He's unmatched in his squareness, depth of twist, width there across his stifle, hock and rear foot works right. Good class. Give all those kids a round of applause.
The ring now is your final class of our market goats. This is heavyweight class number 2 from 100 up to 118 pounds. Here results out of class 1. Jacob Gisbera from Wilcox Hill with a blue. Julie Luby from Seward FFA with a blue, and Cole Luby from Seward FFA with a blue. Purple winners include Justine Pope from Shelton FFA, Alicia Johnson from Silver Lake FFA, Skylar Hansen from Seward FFA, Levi Finn from Twin River FFA. Levi will also be coming back for that final drive for the heavyweights. To Riveras with a purple. Second purple is to Michaela Menke from Stewart FFA, and first purple will go to Shelby Carr from the Alliance FFA.
man, we stepped up the quality a little bit in our last class on the goat side to finish comparatively to our previous class. And I think we've got a nice group of them all the way throughout. Talked about these kids here need some more product, need some more days on feed, maybe have a little more maturity in this middle group here, getting a little deeper chested, a little out of the box in terms of body condition, I think, and just fat cover in the front part of their body. Have one here that's a little plainer over his loin, like to strengthen him up on his feet some. Got one here, there's really nothing wrong with him. Needs some more rack shape, just need a little more punch. Move into these top 5, I think that's where the quality surfaces. And I think with that, the highest quality one, the best one from the side, the freshest one, the best bodied one, the cleanest chested one, I think the most youthful one in his neck, skin, touch, and handle, the freshest across his loin, comes in our class winner. He is not quite as good out of his hip and hind leg as the weather that comes in second. Maybe from time to time, like right now, she's letting him slouch a little bit, and he doesn't drive up quite as pretty as the one in second. And man, that is something that's really important to me. But I think when we get down to a market goat show, and in between these two contemporaries, I thought his body cavity excelled. I thought he's better out of the backside of his shoulder. He's no doubt fresher across his loin. He's more youthful at the base of his chest and neck, and I thought that's what separated the two. Hey, this one, when you drive him up, awesome job. That thing looks good. He runs out of punch just a little bit in the backside of his loin. He's not quite as fresh here from his last rib back. He's a little flatter across the plane of his stifle. Set those things in motion. He's probably a little more generic just from a show ring look standpoint than our class winner. That was a deciding factor. Hey, this one's not generic at all. This wide-headed one, he is awesome looking from the side. He come to be a show goat. He's bred to be a show goat. Looks like a show goat. Body cavity is great. He's probably the freshest backed one of our top 3. Getting behind him, he's the smallest in his hip. He's the lowest and plainest in his pin set. He's the smallest across the plane of his stifle. Study him on a 3/4. He's the least descript everywhere. We have one that's real descript here in 4. That thing is a monster truck in terms of stoutness and bone and feature, cage, skull. The grits are a little bit overcooked for me. He's a little too fat. He's a little too heavy conditioned. Like to strengthen him in his top line. That has a big, big back, though. Hey, this one right here, he ain't no slouch either. Big-backed goat that's fresh, and he wedges back right. Of our top 5, he's the plainest and narrowest at the base of his chest. He's the plainest in his lower leg, flattest across the plane of his stifle. Young man does a nice job of getting that thing stuck. Excited to see these heavyweights come out here in this champion drive.
As they get ready to bring those heavyweights back in for the division selection, here's your results of heavyweight class number 2. Blue ribbon winners will include Amelia Heller from Wisner-Pilger, Isaiah Ekstrom from Central City FFA, McKenna Shea from Westholt FFA, Caitlin Rezak from Central FFA, Peyton Hartman from Adams Central FFA, Chloe Cutlers from Central FFA. Those are your blue ribbon winners out of heavyweight class number 2. Purple ribbon winners include Logan Helgekamp from Arlington FFA, Ashley Saney from Norfolk FFA. Ashley is coming back in for this final drive. Ethan Heidelkamp from Arlington FFA. Your second purple exhibited by Arabella Rossmeyer from the Shelton FFA. And congratulations to Clara Johnson from Palmyra FFA, your first purple out of class number 2.
winding up our heavyweight division over here on the GOAT side, and I think we've got a nice set of them here. So you end up this division. Give all these kids a round of applause. Thank them for what they brought us. The kids that hit the gate a while ago, thank them as well. It's been a really fun division to judge. Hey, I think we've got 4 nice ones here, in my opinion, and let's talk about them respectively. We'll get you a couple of champions. Probably the stoutest one in his feature, probably the bendiest in his bone work, the most flexible in his shoulder, knee, top line, rear foot, comes out of our class, our lighter class winner here. Hey, that goat is absolutely sound and athletic when you set him in motion. He's got a big square hip in him. He's steady when you walk away from him. His hip and hock tracks true. His body cavity is really genuine here in the forepart of his body. His rib shape's round. He's got a big rack in him. He's not quite as fresh or robust there from his last rib into the heel of his loin. That's a little bit concerning. I'd like to firm him and freshen him right there, but I just really don't have much wrong with that one. Just from a composition standpoint, I think he's really, really solid is the way I deem him. The one that comes second in that class is probably the heaviest muscled one we have of our top 4 out here, and we talked about those respectively in that class as the one that we tried to veer towards and just couldn't make it happen from a skeletal standpoint. Like to reconstruct his shoulder, like to reconstruct his hip and hock. He gets a little plainer when he walks away from you. He's a little coarser there at the base of his neck, but that thing does have an awesome body cavity. Young lady gets everything out of him from a showmanship standpoint. He's really, really big backed and fresh. My compliments to both of those exhibitors. We have one here in our last class we talked about that excelled the second place in that class in terms of freshness, in terms of handle. He is probably the smoothest across his last rib and through the heel of his loin. He's probably the freshest in his skin and hair coat. Is he quite as genuine there in his bone work? He's probably the most fragile for sure from 3 of these when you study him there at his surface and where he plants and goes out of his foundation. He's a little smaller in his forearm shape. He's a little more bland there in his chest floor studying. You get right behind him. His hock and heel isn't quite as big, and he sets his neck in him just a little lower on the point of his shoulder. He excels, though, in terms of freshness, handle, skin, and touch. So there's definitely some give and take there on what you're going to lay your priorities. Hey, the one that's beating potatoes and fundamental comes in second here in this class, and that thing absolutely drives up great. Young lady, you get everything out of him from a showmanship standpoint. You study that thing from the side on the park, and he is very, very good. He runs uphill. He's smooth. He's good in his lines. You set that thing in motion, he's probably the most generic one out here in terms of just shape and composition, show ring appeal, and aesthetics, and that's what got you second. I don't really think there's anything wrong with that goat. He just doesn't have quite as many elite pieces as some of these other ones. He's a little flatter across his lower leg. He's just not quite as elite there. This is a tough decision for me. I do think the best 2 are on the front line. I like the lightweight for champion, the heavy for reserve.
Congratulations to Shelby Carr from the Alliance FFA, will be your heavyweight division champion. Reserve will go to Clara Johnson from the Palmyra FFA as your division reserve. Again, just a reminder, all of our division winners will be selected for who will be our supreme champion of the Market Goat here at the Nebraska FFA contest this afternoon at 3:30 in the Beef Arena right behind me.